This lecture is about the ancient Greeks and their culture. It's divided into separate lecture, three separate lectures. We're going to talk about the origins of the culture first, before anything we might call Greek culture really developed. As you can see here on this map, the Greek culture originates in a set of islands and peninsulae, what is called in general the Balkan Peninsula. But as you also see with the red on the map, the Greeks expanded their influence very wide throughout the Mediterranean into Central Asia. This happened over time. Originally, the Greek culture started on what we would call, as I said, the Balkan Peninsula. And we can even more precisely look at the Isle of Crete as its origin. Now note the civilization starts on the Isle of Crete approximately 5000 BC, and we have signs of settlement as early as 128,000 years BC. So it had been inhabited and settled for a long time before anything that we might call civilization arises. The first civilization that arises on Crete is something that we call the Minoan civilization. This is a Bronze Age civilization. We don't know a lot about it. There are a number of archaeological remains, buildings we call palaces, but we're not really sure if they were really palaces. Administrative, they seem to be serving some sort of administrative purpose. We call the culture Minoan because it refers to the mythic king Minos, who was powerful and very wise, but he made perhaps some unwise decisions. For example, in depriving the god Poseidon the sacrifice that was due him. In revenge, Poseidon made sure that his wife gave birth to a monster, the Minotaur, half bull, half man, a fierce monster. And to contain this offspring, the labyrinth was created. Now this is the myth, right? This is a story. So King Minos hired the inventor Daedalus, one of the most clever of the ancient Greeks, to design the labyrinth. And also, of course, it was Daedalus who devised the wings that ended up, that let his son fly close to the sun. Wonderful myths. Again, I relate these to show some of the ways the ancient Greeks influenced our culture. The Minoans were traders. They had a huge impact across the Mediterranean. They traded perhaps as far as the British Isles. For one thing, what's in Great Britain? Well, tin, for example. Tin is alloyed with copper and makes bronze, which is an metallic alloy that is easier to work and very useful in making tools. Here's an example of a piece of pottery, glazed pottery, from Crete, ancient Crete. We call it the snake goddess. We don't know exactly what it was, but it's interesting. The figure on top of the woman's head appears to be a cat. Maybe there's a connection with ancient Egypt. Remember, the cats were sacred to the ancient Egyptians. So much of this is mysterious. One of the really interesting things about Minoan civilization is that there is almost no evidence of a Minoan army or signs of fortification. Very few signs of warfare are depicted in Minoan art. Um, Perhaps coincidentally, there also seems to be in the depictions a lot of female depictions. So there's questions: was it a very peaceful society? Was it a matriarchy? Was it a society that was dominated or run by women? Um, Maybe there's a connection, but there appears to be evidence that shows that the women played a dominant role in Minoan religion and maybe also in Minoan society. So uh, there's no real certain evidence of this, but there are some indicators this might be the case. As you can see here in these slides, the Minoans were wonderful artists, and there's a very interesting stylized depiction of society and also the wildlife. A lot of the depictions of the sea. Remember that this is an island in the Mediterranean, so lots of octopi to be used in artistic motifs. Very beautiful work.